Good afternoon, children. How are you all? Very few students have come. Only 7 students till now. Anyway, we have to start. And children, first of all, I would like to tell you something about the test which is going to be held in this month. Okay, for this test, the whole syllabus will be coming, but I think that I don't want to give you the whole syllabus. I'll give you half the chapters. Half the chapters means, let me check in the book. By half the chapters, I mean chapter 1, not 1 is not there in the syllabus, it is deleted. So chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 8. So the chapter which will be coming for the December test, December exam, which you will get in the December exam will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, let me check, 6 and 8. 8th chapter is human health and diseases. 8th chapter is human health and diseases. So from tomorrow, that is from 2nd of December, I would like to start with human health and diseases. Whatever of this chapter will be left, we will cover afterwards. Right now, what I want that so that you prepare well for your exam, which is going to be held this month. I'll start with okay, Sukhsahaj. I'll start with human health and diseases from tomorrow. Right now, today, whatever we can study, that we will study. So in this, I would like to tell you something about few important topics which I want to discuss with you. Out of that, the first one is divergent evolution. Divergent evolution. Divergent evolution is also known as adaptive radiation. Another name for this is adaptive radiation. Now, in this, I gave you the example of Darwin's finches. The example which I gave you in this were Darwin's finches. In Darwin's finches, from the main variety, which was grain-eating variety, the main variety, which was grain-eating varieties, many more species, many more varieties developed. From the main grain-eating variety, other varieties also developed. And these finches were found in Galapagos Island, and from this main variety, many more different species. This was the main variety. From this the cactus eating, flower eating, insect eating, buds eating, all varieties developed from the main variety. This is divergent evolution. If we want to write it, what we will write is, this is an evolutionary process which produces, if we want to write it, we will write another example. First of all, I'll give you one more example of this. This is example number 1. Another example of this which I would like to give you is example number 2. The example number 2 is, the marsupials. All the marsupials are the pouched mammals. Marsupials, which are the pouched mammals like kangaroo. These marsupials are found only in Australian continent. So what happened that from the main type, from the main stock, main type, from one of the main type, different types of marsupials, they came into existence, and they showed this existence on the same island. They many times originated from the main stock. Main stock, many were originated. Main stock, many types were originated. This picture is given in your book on page number. I'll just let you know. The page number is 133, where in Australia it is shown that in Australian continent or in Australia, uh, from the main stock of marsupials, many types of marsupials evolved. They can be Tasmanian wolf, they can be this glider, bat sort of squirrel sort of animal, then tiger cat, banded anteater, marsupial rat, kangaroo, wombat, bandicoot, koala. They all origin koalas. This is a common name, koala. Then another is bunted anteater, banded anteater. Sorry, banded anteater. Then there was another marsupial rat. Then another kangaroo. They all developed from the same type, same type of main stock. One more example. The third example of divergent evolution is the limbs are present in an elephant. The limbs are present in cheetah. The limbs are present in mole. The limbs are present in squirrels. They all have limbs. Okay, so limbs are present in cheetah, elephant, squirrel, mole. They all have limbs, but their functions are different. Functions are different in all. Functions are different. So that means this is a divergent evolution. Same type, but functionally they are different. If it is a cheetah, it will have a different function. If it is an elephant, it will have a different function. If it is a squirrel, it will have a different function. If it is a mole, it will be a different function. So all they diverge to different direction, which is based on their function. Although they all have limbs, but different type. Same thing, you can go with the four limbs of the human being, the horse, the lizard, the frog. You can go for that also. Now, basically, what is divergent? These are the three examples of divergent evolution. Basically, what is divergent evolution? Divergent evolution is an evolutionary process. We all know that it is an evolutionary process. And in this, new species are produced. New species are produced. And from where do they diverge? They diverge from a single ancestral stock. This is the single ancestral stock from where they all diverge to produce new species. New species are produced from the single ancestral stock. And how do they adapt? They invade new habitats. In Darwin's Finches, they adapted new habitats. And when they adapt to new habitats, they adapt the mode of life which is present in that habitat, which is necessary for their living in that habitat. So they adapt that mode, whichever habitat they invade. So this is divergent evolution. We come to another evolution, which is convergent evolution. Convergent evolution, in that I told you that the functions developed, the functions they adapt is same. Functions they adapt is same. That means what happens in convergent evolution? This is development of similar functional structure. Similar functional structure is involved, they develop. And in which do they develop these? These are developed in unrelated organisms. Similar functions, development of similar functions or functional structures in unrelated group of organisms. In unrelated group of organisms, the similar functional structures develop. For example, the example which we did that day, that was about the wings of, the first example is wings of birds, bats, and butterfly. They all are unrelated group of organisms. Birds is aves, bats are mammals, butterfly is insect, arthropods. So they all have wings, but their function is same, but the structure is different. Functionally they are same, but the structure is different. Although they are unrelated group of organisms, the functions of wings in birds, bats, and butterfly is same. But as far as the structure is concerned, it is different. So function is same. So this is one example like these are wings of birds, okay? These are butterfly. These are bats. They all have similar function. So they converge. They all have similar functions. Although structurally they are different, but they all have similar function, that is flying. So this is one example of convergent evolution. Another example of convergent evolution is spiny anteater and scaly anteater. Spiny anteater, second is spiny anteater. Have you heard of anteaters? And scaly anteaters. Both belong to different orders of class Mammalia. Both belong to different orders of class Mammalia. Now, but if you see functions, okay, they show similar adaptations. Both of them, see anteaters, similar, they show similar adaptations for food. Adaptations for food. So similar adaptations for food is seen in both the types of anteaters. So this is another convergent evolution. Now there is one example, one more type of evolution, which is parallel evolution. Parallel evolution, there is a picture given in your book on page number 134, just after where the divergent evolution, adaptive radiation in marsupials is shown. So the next page after this has this parallel evolution. Now, what is this parallel evolution? Parallel evolution is independent development of similar characters in two animal groups of common ancestry living in similar habitat of different countries. Suppose there is one wolf, which is one is the picture which is given in your book is of Tasmanian wolf and wolf. Parallel evolution. I'm telling you, parallel evolution. We take example of simple wolf and Tasmanian wolf. If both are living in the same habitat, if both are living in similar habitat, if they both are living in similar habitat of different countries, similar habitat of different countries, okay, the habitat is similar of different countries. If the habitat is similar, but even if the countries are different, what they will develop? They will develop similar characters, similar characteristics. This wolf, the simple wolf where I have written, it is a placental mammal, placental animal or placental mammal. It is written in your book also, placental mammal. And another one, which is this Tasmanian wolf, it is a Australian marsupial. Australian marsupial. Both belong to different groups. If you see, both are different type of organisms, but because they are living in similar habitats, similar type of habitat, although the countries are different, that is why they look similar. They have similar characteristics. They have developed similar characteristics. This I'm going to show you in the book. Here, if you see, this is given in the book. This is wolf, and this is Tasmanian wolf. If you see, both are similar. Many more examples are. Example is also given. This is flying phalanger, and another is flying squirrel. Another example is given here. Now, many more examples are given. This is mole. This is marsupial mole. Okay, this is anteater, and this is numbet. So they are these. This line is of placental mammals, and this line is of Australian marsupials. But if you see, they look similar. They look similar, although they are from different group of organisms. But why they are similar? This is parallel evolution. They have evolved parallelly, although they belong to different group of organisms, but they develop similar features. Why similar features have developed in them? Because they were living in similar type of conditions, similar habitats in different countries. This is parallel evolution. But is it clear to you? This much is clear to you, so that I move on to the next topic. Yes, beta, is it clear? Fine, 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 Paras and Suksahaj. Now I would like to tell you something about natural selection. Yes, something about natural selection. Okay. So something in the natural selection. Natural selection. What is this natural selection? You know, the nature always selects the organism which is fit in the prevailing condition. That is selected by nature, and on that basis, you know, Charles Darwin, he gave few postulates. He said that struggle for existence and the survival of the fittest one survives. The nature always survives the one who is fit. There is one example, and many a times the question has been asked, that mechanism is industrial melanism. We call it industrial melanism, melanism. Industrial melanism. Melanism is always related to, you know, coloring. I mean, melanin, that means the darkening. So, you know, the industrial revolution started in UK, in England, sometimes after 1850. Sometimes after 1850, the industrial revolution took place, and I think after 1850, somewhere in early 1910, 1920, somewhere around that. So what happened? This industrial melanism means the darkening which took place because of the industries which are set up in England. Now here, you know, the moths, there are two types of moth. You must have heard of moth. In Dalhousie, there are many moth. One is dark colored. Another is light colored. You know what are moths? Like butterflies, but they hardly fly all the time. They are sleeping very sluggishly. So these moths are of two types. Okay, these moths are of two types. Okay, Chitra. Now what happened? The samples of moths were collected in 1850. 1850, the samples of moths were collected. A survey was done. Okay, so the moths were collected. So collection was done. in 1850, and once it was done after 1920. The collection of moth was done. So this was pre-industrialization. The first was pre-industrialization. And the second, when the moths were collected, that was post-industrialization. That means after the setup of the industry, these samples were collected after 1920. That was post-industrialization. Now, what happened? To their surprise, what they found, the samples which were collected in 1850, the samples which were collected in 1850 before industrialization, in that more white-winged moths were. More white-winged moth were present. White wing means light colored. Okay, white wing moth were more. Moth were more in number. Okay, more in number. And the sample which was collected in 1920, in that it was observed that the dark-winged moth were more in number when the sample collected after this. So white winged, and the second was dark winged. Now, why this change? What happened? That why the white winged moths were more in number when the sample was collected before the industrialization, and why the number of dark winged moths increased when the sample was collected after industrialization. See, there is a picture shown in your book on page number 132. Yes. So they have shown trees. One tree, this is the tree trunk they have shown, and one more, this is the first tree trunk they have shown, and they have shown here the second tree trunk. This was pre-industrialization, and here they are showing post-industrialization. Now, what happened that before the industrialization, the environment was very clean. There was nothing like pollution, so no soot, no smoke, no carbon deposited on the bark of the tree, on the bark of the trunk of the tree. Okay, no carbon, no soot, no smoke, nothing deposited here. So when nothing deposited here, the color of the bark was light. The color of the bark was light. It was light colored. Okay, it was light colored. So in this light colored, the white colored moth used to hide itself properly. The white colored moth used to hide itself because it was not visible to the predators. The light colored moth, the white winged moth, was not visible to the predators. So what happened? They were saved. They were protected from the predators. And when these white-winged moths were protected from the predators, their number increased. But after industrialization, that means post-industrialization, there was a lot of pollution. So I'm writing here, pollution increased. So as a result of pollution, the smoke, the soot, and the carbon deposited on the tree trunk. All this deposited on the bark of the tree trunk. All this deposited. When this because of the deposition of these things, the tree trunk it appeared dark in color. Okay, so when it was dark in color, those dark-winged moth, they were able to hide themselves from the predators in this dark colored stem, and the white ones, the white winged, used to be visible to the predators. So these were visible to the predators. So when these were visible to the predators, they were eaten up in large numbers. So when these were eaten up in large number, their number decreased, and the number of dark winged moths increased. This process, this is a very important phenomenon, and this phenomena is known as industrial melanism. Many a times the question has been asked. The picture is shown in the book on page number 132. I'll just show it to you. If you see here, this is the picture which shows industrial melanism. The first picture is of where the white moth were protected and the dark moth appeared. This was pre-industrialization. And the second picture where the trunk appears black, this is post-industrialization. And because of the post-industrialization, the white-winged or the light-winged moth, they were apparent to the predators and they could not save themselves. They were eaten up in large number by the predators. So beta, this is clear to you, bache? Industrial melanism, very important process. Is this clear to you? I'll just tell you a little of the Hardy-Weinberg's principle now. Okay, fine. Now we come to the third one, which is Hardy-Weinberg's principle. This is something very theoretical type. One more thing I would like to tell you, in natural selection, there are 3 graphs which are shown here. Operation of natural selection. First, I'll tell you those 3 graphs. These are given on page number 136. The graphs appears to be like this. I'll just show you these 3 graphs. These 3 graphs, very important. Even the questions are asked from this also. These 3 graphs, I'll tell you something about these 3 types of graphs. The 3 types of graphs which represent the natural selection. Natural selection, the nature selects the fittest organism, and that is only able to survive. So the 3 graphs which represent the natural selection, they are stabilizing type, the directional type, and disruptive type. The 3 types of graph are stabilizing type. The second type is directional type. I'll make it here. I'll write together, then I'll make directional type. And the third type of graph is disruptive. So these are the 3 types of graphs, which, in a way, tell something about, which explains the natural selection, or these are the 3 types of graphs which operate the natural selection. Now here, if we see the first type of graph, this is operational type of graph. In this, the peak is shown like this. The graph appears to be like this, here, and a peak of this graph develops like this. Now, what does this graph tell? This graph tells that this is the stabilizing type of graph, the first type of graph I have drawn, the first type of graph. This graph tells that the nature always prefers the intermediate type. The intermediate types are always preferred by the nature, intermediate types. Intermediate types are always preferred by the nature. Now, example of this is, if you find in nature, let's talk about the human being. See, very tall are also very, very few in number. Very short human beings are also very, very few in number. Maximum which type of human beings exist? They are the human beings of average height. So average height in the human beings, this is an example of intermediate type or an example of stabilizing type of graph. Another example I'll give you in this is the sickle cell anemia. In sickle cell anemia, like the places where this disease is common, sickle cell anemia,